Besma Arb wer world um Feskadus Adawamla Amin. Besma Arb wer world or Feskadus Adawamla Amin. Besma Arb wer world or Feskadus Adawamla Amin. Yes, good morning and blessings and love. And yeah, it's kind of the news, it's a big time in the world, different shifts, big visible changes in the world. And it's a scary time for many. It's a challenging time for many to make sense of what's going on. So yeah, just continually praying for peace and for clarity and stability. And I think it's difficult as well because, we don't have control over those big offices in the world, these big decisions. But what we do have control over is our own footsteps, our own decisions, and our own ways of responding to things. So I pray that we get clarity in decisions that we make as individuals, that we are doing it in a way that makes the world a better place for our corner of the world, because that's all we can do. And essentially, be control of our own set of influences. Anyway, on with the reading. Blessed love, Leviticus 25. Give thanks. Yahweh said to Moses on Mount Sinai, "Speak to the children of Israel and tell them, when you come into the land which I give you, then the land shall keep a Sabbath to Yahweh. You shall sow your field 6 years, and you shall prune your vineyard 6 years, and gather in its fruit. But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of solemn rest for the land, a Sabbath to Yahweh. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. What grows of itself in your harvest you shall not reap. You shall not gather the grapes of your undressed vine. It shall be a year of solemn rest for the land. The Sabbath of the land shall be for food for you, for yourself, and for your servant, for your maid, and for your hired servant, and for your stranger who lives as a foreigner with you, for your livestock also, and for the animals that are in your land. Shall all its increase be your food. You shall count off 7 Sabbaths of years, 7 times 7 years. There shall be to you the days of 7 Sabbaths of years, even 49 years. Then you shall sound the loud trumpet on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall sound the trumpet throughout all your land. You shall make the 50th year holy, and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee to you, and each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. The 50th year shall be a jubilee to you. In it you shall not sow, neither reap that which grows of itself, nor gather from the undressed vines. For it is a jubilee, it shall be holy to you. You shall eat of its increase out of the field. In the year of jubilee each of you shall return to his property. If you sell anything to your neighbour, or buy from your neighbour, you shall not wrong one another. According to the number of years after the jubilee you shall buy from your neighbour. According to the number of years of the crops he shall sell to you. According to the length of years you shall increase its price, and according to the shortness of the years you shall diminish its price. For he is selling the number of the crops to you. You shall not wrong one another, but you shall fear your God, for I am Yahweh your God. Therefore you shall do my statutes and keep my ordinances to them, and you shall dwell in the land in safety. The land shall yield its fruit, and you shall eat your fill, and dwell therein in safety. If you said, what shall we eat in the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather all its increase. Then I will command my blessing on you in the 6th year, and it shall bear fruit in the 3 years. You shall sow the 8th year, and eat the fruit from the old store until the 9th year, until its fruits come in. You shall eat the old vines, and in the old store. The land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. For you are strangers, and live as foreigners with me. In all the land of your possession you shall grant a redemption from the land. Your brother becomes poor and sells some of his possessions. Then his kinsman who is next to him shall come, and redeem that which your brother has sold. If a man has no one to redeem it, and he becomes prosperous and finds sufficient means to redeem it, then let him reckon the years since its sale, and restore the surplus to the man to whom he sold it, and he shall return to his property. But if he isn't able to get back for himself, then what he has sold shall remain in the land of him who has bought it until the year of Jubilee. In the Jubilee it shall be released, and he shall return his property. If a man sells a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it with his whole year after it has been sold. For full year he shall have the right of redemption. If it isn't redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be made sure in perpetuity to him who bought it, throughout his generations. It shall not be released in the Jubilee. But the houses of the villages which have no wall around them shall be accounted for with the field of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall be released in the Jubilee. Nevertheless, in the cities of the Levites may redeem the houses of the cities of their possession at any time. The Levites may redeem the houses that was sold, the city of his possession, and it shall be released in the Jubilees. For the houses of the city of the Levites are their possession amongst the children of Israel. But the field of the pasture lands of their cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. If your brother has become poor, and his hand can't support himself among you, then you shall uphold him. He shall live with you like an alien and a temporary resident. Take no interest from him or profit, but fear your God, that your brother may live amongst you. You shall not lend him your money at interest, nor give him your food for profit. I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, to give you the land of Canaan, and to be your God. If your brother has grown poor amongst you, and sells himself to you, you shall not make him serve as a slave, as a hired servant, and as a temporary resident. He shall be with you. He shall serve with you until the year of Jubilee. Then he shall go out from you, he and his children with him, and shall return to his own family and to the possession of his fathers. For they are my servants, who I brought out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as slaves. You shall not rule over him with harshness, but shall fear your God. As for your male and your female slaves, whom you may have from the nations that are around you, from them you may buy male and female slaves. Moreover, the children of the aliens who live amongst you, of them you may buy, and their families who are with you, which they have conceived in your land, and they will be your property. You may make them an inheritance for your children after you, to hold for a possession. Of them you may take your slaves forever, but over your brothers and your children of Israel you shall not rule one another with harshness. If an alien or temporary resident with you becomes rich, and your brother besides him has grown poor, and sells himself to the stranger or foreigner living amongst you, or to a member of the stranger's family, after he is sold he may be redeemed. One of his brothers may redeem him, or his uncle's son may redeem him, or any who is close to relatives to him of his family may redeem him, or if he has grown rich, he may redeem himself. He shall reckon with him who bought him from a year that he sold himself to him to the year of Jubilee. The price of his sale shall be according to the number of years, and shall be with him according to the time of the hired servant. If there are yet many years, according to them, he shall give back the price of redemption out of the money that he was bought for. If there remain but a few years of the year of Jubilee, then he shall reckon with him according to his years of service. He shall give back the price of his redemption. As a servant hired year by year shall he be with him. He shall not rule with harshness over him in your sight. If he is redeemed by these means, then he shall be released in the year of Jubilee, he and his children with him. For he and his children of Israel are servants. They are my servants, who I have brought out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh God. For these few words give thanks, blessed love. So yeah, a long chapter there. I didn't quite take into account how long it was. And again, a very technical chapter. And it starts off with the covenant that the land itself must have a Sabbath. Every 7th year, the land, remember these kind of farming people, and so the land has to have a sabbatical. 6 years they can grow, and every 7th year you're not allowed to do anything of it. And what's grown in the 6th year will bloom, and then that's what you eat in the 7th year. And it also says that you should be feeding the hungry and needy in that 7th year. You know, bringing people in if they're poor and needy, bringing them into your space that you can help provide for them as well. So it's a very kind of charitable year, and it obviously extends onto the idea of the Sabbath, which we've heard many times. So yeah, it's that Sabbath was now extended to the land, and that the number 7 is very significant throughout the Bible. I won't list them here, but you know, if you did a search, you'll see that the number 7 crops up time and time again and is extremely significant. And it's kind of the number of completion, if you like. You know, created the earth in 6 days and then rest on the 7th, and it is the time of completion, of renewal. And yeah, as I say, I won't go that into depth here because of time, but 7 is extremely important. And then what you also have in the 50th year, so we've got 777 up to 49, then in the 50th year is ordained that there be a year of Jubilee. And this year of Jubilee, similar to kind of the principle of Yom Kippur, which again is a year of renewal, of restating. You know, if you've got any debts, then they've got to be paid and cleared. If you're borrowing anything, it has to be returned. You know, and it's a year of completion. So this 50th anniversary, this year of Jubilee, is a statute that says that must be adhered to. So, and you're counting up the 7 years of the land Sabbath, if you like, up to 49, and then you have a community-wide celebration of the year in Jubilee. So yeah, sort of additional kind of covenants that God's bringing in at this stage, and in a way it feels like it's a way of galvanizing the communities, bringing the communities together. We've got these individual clauses of what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, etc., these individual kind of rules. But what you're seeing here with the land Sabbath and also the year of Jubilees is when people are coming together, and it builds on the last chapter as well, talking about the fasts and the festivals and those big kind of community celebrations. And again, it's really about this idea of nation building. What does it mean to be a part of the community of God and the children of Israel, etc.? How does it galvanize that sense of identity? And these are designed for that, as well as rest. You know, rest is extremely important. As I said the other day, you know, the rule to rest on the 7th day is in our interest to do it, even though we find it extremely difficult to do. It's in our interest. So God wants us to rest, wants us to reflect, wants us to slow down, and these are designed to instill that, as well as now we're seeing the land is also to slow down and to rest and to breathe again. So it starts talking about a more controversial topic at the end in terms of slaves and etc., which was a part of the life back then. I've spoken in earlier chapters about that, so I'm not going to get back into that again. But yeah, it does show some complexities in how society was kind of built. But even then, the slaves are part of the household. It's not chattel slavery that Africans went through. This is a very different experience that needs to be separated from that. So blessed love, give thanks, and have a blessed day. One love.